Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe, here with me is my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
And today we're reviewing the Champions of Krynn adventure module for the 5th edition of Dragonlance that's coming up in a few months.
Written by
The Dragonlance Nexus, which are essentially the Wikia, and a fellow Krynn tubing channel. So a huge shout out to them. This adventure module was a great deal of fun to learn about because it's fantastic that Nexus is starting to get involved in the actual creation process of Dragonlance and their lore. This adventure module, we're mostly going to do a spoiler-free review of sorts because otherwise it might rob some cash from them, and that's the last thing we want. So here we go. There's information that will lead the party to go after the mysterious Mirtani and try to adventure to the Throttle outpost to discover who's trying to convert some dragon eggs into draconians. You have Sir Carl Gardson, who's a crippled hero from the Lance. He's just a new character they made, who fought in the front lines in the Battle of Vingard Keep. And Carl will basically serve the role of mentor early on in the adventure module. He's got his own motives, none of them which are nefarious, just he's got his own reasons for doing a lot of things. He's very dedicated to his duty. He's pretty much a classic Solamnic Knight, which makes him awesome. To anyone who knows me and has been watching our Dragonlance videos for a while, you'll know I'm a huge fan of the Knights of Solamnia. Mirtani's forces, though, are preparing for the conversion process of unborn dragon pups to draconians in the catacombs below the keep that you have to adventure into. I'm not going to get into many more details because otherwise it'll spoil the whole thing, because there's a lot. It's not so much the end as the journey, and there's a lot of interesting plot hooks. Don't agree with all of them. I agree with others. I'm just going to be honest with you all. I like Throttle journeying there, but on the other hand, I almost find it a little too overt at a few points with the darkness that surrounds it. On the other hand, I like that they went against type with one Draconian who's a follower of Paladin. He's just a supporting character. I hope in the next module he gets a larger role, because it's interesting seeing someone who was born of a race that's supposed to be evil, but he went against his nature and essentially became a heroic individual. That's pretty cool. Now, this module doesn't just have a cool story and some interesting, really cool characters. It has a lot about just ideas like motivation and what you can do with your character. Such as, if you're a Knight of Solamnia, you might have volunteered for this duty, and if you're just a regular traveler, you just happen to be recruited along the way. I really like the motivation of a Knight of Solamnia, just wanting to earn their stripes. And I know, well, that's the obvious backstory for a Dragonlance Knight of Solamnia campaign character. I've done that. But I think that with the books, there's a trend towards going against that kind of type. Because I think they mostly only did that technically with Sturm. I'd argue Huma already earned his stripes. He's already a frontline soldier who's proven his valor quite a few times, as have most other Knights of Solamnia as they appear in the literature. It's only really Sturm who's trying to earn his stripes and prove himself. I find Sturm's story very sad. On the other hand, I like to see more of that kind of Knight of Solamnia, the idealist. Now, along the way, you will also meet various other characters. A point of criticism, you meet a half-elf who doesn't really serve a purpose. That's something I will criticize about Dragonlance Nexus here. I kind of feel like half-elves should be a rare breed. You've got a half-elf character who essentially comes in just as a merchant or something. Okay, going back to the original fantasy fiction, in Tolkien, Elrond is a very unique kind of character. He's Elrond half-elf. Yes, he's become a full elf because that's the path he chose. Yes, his parents were both half-elves, essentially, with Earendil and Elwing. But what makes the half-elves so unique in Tolkien's lore is how rare they are and how auspicious their appearance in the literature is. Now, later on in Dragonlance, Tanis being the only half-elf to truly get a large arc, because Kifkanon's kids don't really get an arc, they do appear. There are a lot of half-elves that appear during the Kinslayer Wars. But after that era, there shouldn't be too many half-elves. Just having a random NPC character who shows up who's half-elf, as though it's the most normal thing in the world, kind of, I find, scratches at the lore and slashes at it, and it degrades the importance of a half-elf, in a way. There shouldn't be much more than maybe, by the time of the War of the Lance, 4, maybe 5 half-elves in the entire world. And I know a lot of people may not like to hear that, but let's bear in mind, this is incredibly rare. Otherwise, Tanis would not have been treated as poorly as he was by the royal family of Qualinesti, namely Solosterin and Porthios. So I kind of think this character comes out of nowhere.
It's done mainly to have a variety of different races and classes for a Dungeons & Dragons campaign setting.
Yeah, I know that's what most do it for, but I kind of think you got to bear in mind the lore. And the lore is everything, I find, in all fantasy universes. Kella Evening Song, I know I'm nitpicking, but that's kind of our role here at the corner. We're here to nitpick. Now, they get everything else almost completely right, from the details about the outpost, how any encounter should play out, how to get around the situation. They offer different pathways to each encounter, each place, as well as motivation for how to get the characters to go the planned route. Because if the character just says, hey, you know what, I'm not going to do this. Because you do get those players who just decide, you know what, I'm going that direction. I'm not going to do what the GM tells me. I'm going to throw them for a loop. Here's the thing. These guys have accounted for that. And I actually think that lends itself to the brilliance of this module. They also bring in maps, so you'll know the entire layout of the place. And they also explain in words. So there's a lot of details, there's a lot of characters. Each note that you might get along the way on the campaign as well, like the letters the messengers might deliver, are delivered to you in the actual PDF. You even get the rules or the laws of Throttle, which are relatively simple. This is where I kind of feel it was a little too obvious with Throttle. I'd like a more dark, nefarious, sinister background where the GM kind of keeps the rules to himself, a bit like the politics of Istar. That being said, I do like some of the jokes here with the rules. The guards are always right. If you get caught cheating, lose a hand. If you get caught stealing, lose a hand. If you get caught fighting, well, there's other rules. There's about 6, but generally everything costs you a hand or a head.
It makes me think that a goblin put those laws in order.
Let's just say it's worshippers of Takesis. It is pretty glorious, and you get lots of these little lore nods. You get the buildings described. You get little details about what the villain might do, villain of this part of the module. Got a lot of detail. Now, there are some things which I would have liked a bit more detail on. There are a few things I found were a little too detailed, but overall, I did enjoy this. I like that we actually do get a Kender who shows up, of course. Because, of course, you have a Kender.
They're everywhere.
Though I encourage every player to play this entire module with a Kender party. Every character must be a Kender. Your Solamnic Knight must be a Kender.
You must be smoking something.
Want to see more Kender? Heck, your half-elf is really a Kender. Joke.
Half-elf, half Kender.
Oh, that'd be terrifying. That'd be terrible. The poor elves.
The real question would be, what was that elf thinking?
Which elf? Oh, the one who begat the half-Kender. Yeah, I don't think that's ever happened in the lore. I hope it doesn't happen in the lore. As far as adventure modules, now we're not going to be comparing it to generally a novel. We've both had experience writing adventure modules because we've been playing D&D for almost 20 years. And we both have experience with reading these kind of modules. I'm going to say this is probably 2.5. It's above average. I'm really excited to see how they expand it. I want to see Chapter 2. I really want more. It left me wanting more. And that's a good thing, but I also kind of feel there was more they could have done. But on the other hand, this is a good start.
Yes, a good start for a campaign. 2.25.
What's your reasoning, if you have any?
Honestly, vital details missing. So I have to go check out the stats for this race of this class in another module for this individual villain. Why not put it at the end of the book?
Well, they included most of the villains. Oh, you mean the NPC villain? The flunkies. Oh, yeah, the flunkies. Okay, I got you. You wanted the flunkies take their stats from the actual campaign setting, which has not yet been finished, I think. Come up with it and just put it in there so that way those designing 5th edition Dragonlance could just copy and paste it.
Because nothing irritates me more than being in a campaign, rolling encounters, and then having to go into the monster manual and having to flip through there.
I get that. That said, this was still enjoyable. If you've enjoyed this video, I hope you stay tuned for the next video, which will be another Great House video, this time about the Great House of the family of Urgot, founding clan of the Empire of Urgoth. If you enjoyed this video, as said, and want to stay tuned, don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button like you're Sky trying to smash the High Clerist's Tower in Sturm to pieces.